We are live. All right.
So,
Today we have Goodnight Guy as an intro to the whole debacle. Would you please describe who you are, what you do on YouTube, and so on and so forth, etc.?
all right, I'm Goodnight Guy. I do videos on crime, criminology, criminal justice, and I'm starting to do some law stuff because I'm in law school now. So I figure I'll talk about things I don't really understand because I'm paying a lot of money to learn to understand it.
Might as well.
Yeah.
A lot of money being involved in college and whatnot. I don't even want to hear what that price tag is.
Well, I'm going to the best law school in my state. Problem is, there's only one law school in this state.
Fair enough. They kind of have a monopoly, so to speak, on law school. Then I take it.
Mm-hmm. It's rough.
And we're going to charge you an exponential amount of money for you to go to school because, well, quite frankly, you don't have anywhere else to go to in this state. So suck it up.
Yeah. Well, the problem is, I was going to be staying in Pennsylvania, but then my alma mater turned me down, broke my heart. So now I'm stuck in Delaware.
Uh,
It's
do
great. Yeah,
people even live in Delaware?
like seven, maybe eight
Do
on
they
a
even
good
have?
day.
Do they have like? Do they even have liquor stores in Delaware?
Oh, they have like one every block. It's insane because there are no
Well, it's
different
not
sales
very.
tax.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. If you live in Delaware, you got to drink.
It numbs the pain.
It does. It isn't much better. So, we're talking a little bit in the chat, obviously beforehand, and you said you wanted to discuss Bitcoin.
Yeah, so I want to start off
Extend.
with you said that you were like you kind of tend to be libertarian, maybe not like the established libertarian party, but you tend to have libertarian views, right?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, I differ from them on certain issues, but for the most part, I align myself with more the Libertarian Party than the GOP or the Democrat Party.
Yeah, because those are terrible. But how do you feel about the sort of decentralized idea of cryptocurrencies overall? Because I think of them as like they're fun, but they're just a mess waiting to happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't have, from what I understand of them, I mean, keep in mind, I really don't have much of a thing of them, but from what I've seen, it seems to be some form of currency that has literally no backing to it whatsoever.
Hmm.
So at literally any point, it could be reduced to literally no value.
Yeah, that's the thing where people are saying, "Oh, it can grow, it can drop," but even stocks have a backing where they can only fall to a certain point. Even money, such as the United States, where it's kind of there's no standard really; it's just kind of backed by itself. But Bitcoin could
Yeah,
go to like 10,000 down to $1, and there's nothing to stop it, or to nothing, which is kind of scary.
it's scary if you have any investment in whatsoever, which I personally don't. So for me, it's kind of like joke to me looking from the outside in, I guess you could say.
Yeah, because I mean, I tried to put money in today, and the site crashed. But I put money in when it was at $10,600. An hour later, it was at $8,800. So
Oh,
essentially, it locks in like when you put in at that amount. So I would have just lost all that money.
damn.
Hmm. Free
Our
markets.
friend Somi is in the chat.
Hmm.
But you said you wanted to discuss the libertarian side of it. We also discussed it in a much lesser extent, obviously. Gary Johnson and how his campaign was more or less funded by it.
Yeah, the poor guy was a mess. I mean, Silk Road had a better backing than him. Silk Road 2 had a better backing than him. God, poor guy. I think him and Jeb Bush should be friends. They really should.
They can just sit around a table and sip brandy and discuss their horrible,
Eat guacamole.
just doomed from the start campaigns.
Yeah, God, that's why I'm excited for the 2020 campaign. Make it Waka Flocka, Dwayne the Rock Johnson, Trump, possibly Ivanka. God, it's gonna be a mess. Get Hillary and Bernie back in there. I'm excited. It's gonna be great.
It's almost gotten to the point where I know full well that no third party is ever going to win. It's a cynical way of looking at it, but that's the way I look at it. So
Jill
I'm
Stein's just
starting
got
to
to
think
charge his crystals.
I can't charge my crystals if I don't believe in it.
Well, first you got to activate your almonds. That's where you got to start.
Oh, what's that?
You got to have those activated almonds to charge your crystals.
I'm sorry, I got enough nuts in my diet.
True.
Joke. But
A little bit.
as far as like that goes, at the end of the day, is like obviously I'm joking, but I would almost want the 2020 election, the way it seems to be going, to be settled by a boxing match.
Oh, that's not even joking. I would love to see that because The Rock would win. Oh my God.
But I mean, unless they get like fucking
I
Vin
want
Diesel or some other shit to go on the other
no,
side.
but I want two presidents who have been in the WWE. Trump was in the Billionaire SmackDown, and then Rock to Dwayne Johnson.
Am I watching a really, really old episode of Celebrity Deathmatch, or is this a 2020 election? I honestly can't tell.
That's what I want. I want to not be able to tell the difference. That's the goal. But so you
You
sent me a
know the
couple
funny
of
part about
you're saying funny things.
I'll let you go in a second. The funny thing about that though is I think there would be less outrage about that kind of election than there
Hmm.
was about the one that happened in 2016.
Well, it was fair and square. It was a
Like,
battle royale.
well, he fucked his shit up. I mean, I can't argue with that.
Everyone who's watched Game of Thrones know how that
Does
goes.
off with his head. I'll be honest. I've never watched any episodes of Game of
Oh,
Thrones.
there's an episode
Crucify me
where
now.
no, I'm just gonna say there's an episode where this giant dude is fighting this fast guy. The fast guy's winning, gets a little too cocky, and literally gets his head smashed like a melon. It's pretty brutal. But that's a good way to do an election. It works. There's no flaws. There's no
That
argument.
sounds pretty.
The loser's dead.
I can agree to that.
Yeah, it's great. And
Well,
anyone who lost,
the other guy would have won. Well, the other guy's dead.
yeah, it's just the best way to do elections.
Really is. Go back to the olden days. You just your battles of the death. You want to be the leader of the group. We'll see which one of you is stronger.
Well, there was a case, I think it was like a year or two ago, where like a 65-year-old guy was on trial for something. It was like really minor, like a traffic infraction. And he tried to say like, you guys never removed battle royale from the laws. It's still here from way back when, like 300 years ago. I want to see that and fight to the death with the person who charged me with this. And of course, like, yeah, that's still in the books. It shouldn't be. We're not allowing you to kill the person or as a person to kill you who wrote you a traffic ticket. It's a little much. I can
That's
imagine being
hilarious.
60.
That's the
It's like a 60-something-year-old guy who's saying, listen, I don't feel like paying this parking fine, so I would rather kill someone or be killed.
be killed or be killed. I mean, at this point in my life, doesn't matter.
Yeah, just like, listen,
To be
bring it
fair,
on.
though, he's 65-year-old old ex steel worker.
What a mensch. But so you sent me a couple of articles on things. I want to kind of touch on those because they look interesting. First
You
of
want to
all,
start with?
the unexamined brutality of the male libido. Because do you know what the initial headline was?
Oh, that was the headline I was aware of. I didn't know it had was a room or preamble to it.
Well, it got changed because they got in so much trouble. It said like if men aren't kept in check, they'll like kill their fathers and sleep with their mothers. That was that
How
headline's
better?
like initial thing. The funniest part about that is like the person's trying to make a big statement and all, but that was Freudian, right? Like Freud made up that whole idea of like the Oedipus complex. Do you know who disproved that?
Who?
His daughter. His daughter ripped apart, I think it was like 95% of his theories. So you guys, like this person, the writer, quoted a man who was disproved by a woman and ignored the woman.
There's a certain level of irony to that, is there not?
It's extreme irony. It's like they were so intent on proving their point about how bad men are that they went with what a man said, who was disproved by his own daughter, who so voraciously disagreed with him, was able to prove he was wrong in making things up because he was on an opium bender. for his entire life. It's beautiful.
I do
And
remember.
he probably just had mommy and daddy issues.
Well, I mean, obviously at this point,
Yeah.
is blatantly that if men aren't kept in check, or where, however you happen to word it, inevitably, if the result is if men are left to their natural state, will kill our father and sleep with our mother.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously have some serious mental issues.
Oh, yeah, and it's like, I
I don't
mean,
know about the world at large, but that's never crossed my mind.
yeah, and it's so insane that, first of all, like the writer went with that, but it's like people still believe all these theories that are wrong were proven wrong 20 years, 30 years after they were made. But this person thought that that was a good idea. What was the writer's name? Who was the idiot who wrote that? All right, Stephen March. Wow, so a man quoting a man instead of a woman. That's sexist. That's terrible. Can you believe that? Disgusting. But it's like all these
So
things.
desensitized to the world at this point, I'll believe just about anything, no matter how stupid it may sound, because I honestly wouldn't put it past humanity at this point.
Yeah. But it's like if you're looking at some of these things, like they're going off about Cosby and Weinstein and Louis C.K. and Al Franken, but it's like these are not just men. The whole point is that they're men in power who have psychological issues and are all in power in the same place, all in power in Hollywood. And expect that, oh, it's all men? Maybe it's men in power in this area who are given this specific type of power. Like I was talking to a few people the other day and they said, well, the casting couch has been a joke for decades. Everyone knows, oh, well, the casting couch, this casting couch, that, like, it's a running joke. So the fact that, oh, it came out that it's a real thing, well, of course it's a real thing. It just depends on the extent and how bad it is, the fact that it still exists, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's not in any way, shape, or form a surprise to me that these men that are particularly have a large amount of power in Hollywood,
Mhm.
of actresses that wanted to advance their careers, not
Yeah.
justifying their mannerisms in any way, shape, or form, is still disgusting. But another irony of it seems to be to me that we also tend to be feminists.
hmm The whole male
So
feminists are like the creepiest ones.
yeah, which I made a tweet a while back, and it's something that I've come to I necessarily realize, and obviously I can cite a thesis or article about it right off the top of my head, but so blatantly and obviously trying to make it out how against something they are.
hmm
They obviously have a guilty conscience about doing something in the past that they know is wrong, and they're just trying to cover it up.
It's like an inverse form of a
If
projection where it's like, you did this, you did this. So it's like, I would never do this. I would never. It's like, I never said you would. Why are you saying you wouldn't out of nowhere? Well, because I would never.
exactly the same, I guess, could be said for those people that, like, if you look at any form of their social media bios and has like anti-racist in the title, it's like, yes, most people are anti this bad thing.
Yeah. Bad things are bad. Thank you.
Yes, also I'd like to add that I am anti-murder and anti-Grand Theft Auto.
Yeah, it's like, well, I mean, that comes back to, I think I've mentioned this a few times in passing with other things, but one time I went into a prison, a maximum security prison, to talk with the lifers. It was like a class that my university offered called Inside Out. And one of them, this guy, so they're lifers, which means that they have committed murder or some sort of horrible, horrible, violent thing like triple rape and violence and assault and all that. So they're in there for life. This one guy, a lifer, dreads and like wearing like a hippie bandana sort of thing, and like then like their prison garb. And he was talking about how evil Monsanto is, and oh man, the GMOs, and like, man, it's so bad. I'm just thinking the whole time, like, can you really talk about morality? You killed someone, at the very least. Yeah, blows my mind sometimes.
That is, but I mean, just because that person is, immoral, I'm not gonna argue with you there. I mean, obviously, murder is immoral, but does that make what he's saying wrong?
No, but it's very odd that like he looks at it like that. Like one of the other guys was saying like, well, the violence all starts at home and like the family, that sort of thing. So he wants to do stuff with like, if he could ever get out. Fun fact: only one person has ever gotten out of a life sentence in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. I forget his name off the top of my head, but I met him. Only person he was convicted falsely and by an openly racist judge. But these other guys are like, oh, if I get out this, if I get out that, I'm saying like, man, that's real noble and all, but that ain't happening. You know, our prison
It's
system's fine.
yeah, well, the prison system in of itself is a discussion that can be boiled down to a number of and very idiotic ideas and
Yeah.
ideals, for that matter, in a lot of senses.
But yeah, back to the
If
whole
you really
mail.
want, I'm not very well versed on it, but I'm sure I can add my 2 cents in here and there, as it were.
Oh, it's such a messy topic. I wouldn't want to talk about it without even doing research first, because even though I've done years of it, I always get things wrong and then I get yelled at. Back
Fair
when I
enough.
was in prison, it was like this, like, okay, sorry, I haven't been in years. Literally, I have not
I
been
haven't
in
been to
prison.
prison in years.
Yeah, but like I'm reading through this article more because I only
That
skimmed it earlier. It's insane. 'Cause first of all, it sounds like it's painting men as like these horrible, evil things. And again, the guy's quoting Freud talking about like the id, ego, and superego, and the Oedipus complex. It's like that's all been disproven. And this guy is talking about how evil men are, and it just brings back things like I forget that one dude. He's in Orange Is the New Black. He's like the alpha feminist, that guy, and that whole thing was like, I'm so good. I'm a good feminist. I know men are evil. All you men have to accept. I'm saying like, I don't think I'm evil. I think I'm chaotic good. You know, I'm not evil. I don't think I was born evil. Jewish. I don't really believe in original sin. Just reading through this guy's things, it's insane how much he wants to say that he's evil and then to repent for himself. It's what it looks like self-flagellation.
Yeah, I mean, it boils down to if you really want to attribute to that, like the SJW, especially when it comes to white guilt, it's like just because, regardless of your past history, regardless of the fact that your family, your immediate family, your mother, your father, is in their apparent lifetime, and you yourself have never owned a slave, just because your ancestors did, or for that matter, didn't, no way, there's almost no way to prove it. I'm sure there is a way to prove it, but most people won't go out of their way to information or citations for it. SJWs began to delve that deep into history because if it did, it would be of a majority of their ideals that they have.
Mhm.
But I feel like most people that are in that SJW field that are like this writer just have an unsurmountable amount of feeling of guilt,
Mhm. Which is
trying
insane.
to trying to redeem their own, well, I did this simply because situation by writing an article, regardless of how a mentally stable person would look at it and be like, this is literally trash.
Mhm.
A high school and get a better written article than this with better sources and citations that haven't been disproven, as you said, 95% of the time.
It's like the dude even quotes. I think at one point he's quoting a porn star saying that the only relation between a man and a woman that doesn't include violence is when the guy's soft or flaccid. You know, I'm looking like you're going to quote a porn star from the '70s, which back then it was just all violence. It was like just horrible. A lot of times the actresses were like prostitutes who had been like forced in all that. It was horrible. There were no background checks, no anything like that. Very like no laws for it. And he's quoting a porn star from back then who had a very specific life. And he's also quoting Freud. He's talking about the male libido being like a myth, but that's like true and it's evil and like it sounds fake, but it like men are just inherently violent. It's so weird. He's also talking about like modern fatherhood and how men have to not be so like naturally violent. It's insane. Like who let
I
this be
am
published?
not. Well, you have to, like, the New York Times has to have people that like vet their articles.
Hmm.
Like, and if they don't, that just speaks a whole other volumes to how their integrity as a news site. And I cite them myself sometimes, so I'm not completely devoid of, blame here when it comes to citing New York Times, but they are still considered a reputable news source, so I will use them for citations if need be. Usually I try to go somewhere else, but you do what you got to do.
Yeah.
And in this sense, for me, it seems that if they do have people that vet like what articles get posted and what articles don't,
They need a new person to do it.
then yeah, like if it's a committee, they need new people. If it's a person, they need a new person.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying they have to have any political affiliation at all. I'm just saying that the person needs to be swapped out because obviously they have some form of from the rest of the freaking world.
Mm.
They must spending too much time at the office. We'll say for the sake of argument.
They've been eating too much soy, right? Need more onions in their diet.
Soy boys. The
I
the,
love
the,
that.
the
That
new
people,
alt right term.
I love that people are now like they're buying onions and eating a ton of onions to counteract the soy. So apparently, onion is super high in testosterone. So it's like there are people now out there who have eaten soy and are eating a ton of raw onion because Infowars says so. You always got to listen to PJW. He's a hero.
Alex Jones. He's a comedian in his own right.
He's
Like
funnier than Dan
I
Cook.
tell people I know. I like. Well, that's kind of an insult, actually. You're funnier
I
than
know
Dan
what I
Kirk.
said.
Oh, really, really.
That's who I'm funnier than. I'm
That's like
funnier than that's like the below 0 star rating when you that.
give a Yelp review of a stand-up comedian. He was funnier than Dan Cook.
You know, you
That
were
cuts deep.
extremely mediocre. You were really just extremely mediocre. I loved it.
Uh, but the what I was talking about, like Alex Jones, like I know people that like, oh my god, you watch Alex Jones? I was like, yes, I watch him. I do not in any way, shape, or form take him seriously.
Well, it's like, did you hear what came out about a lot of the products, like the super healthy pills and things? Apparently, someone found that there was lead in some of them. It's like, all these healthy nootropics from the have been like filtered out with no fluoride or anything. Oh, they have lead. Hmm, awkward.
Well, it doesn't have fluoride.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I'll trust Shapiro. I'll trust Shapiro. I won't trust Jones. Shapiro, if he sells anything, I know it'll be kosher. I want little Shapiro yarmulkes. I like him.
Now introducing the Shapiro condom. Hashtag thug life.
God, I feel like that's something that Milo would sell. Do I mean Stewart or
But
Yiannopoulos? You'll never know.
to be fair, Milo Yiannopoulos is far funnier.
True. He's all right. I
I
mean,
disagree with him on certain things, but one of my favorite quotes from I don't mean to interrupt you, but one of my favorite quotes from him actually was when he was talking to university. He was talking to the obviously the young Republicans. Essentially, is what it was. Obviously, there were probably other people from differing opinions there as well, but his response to the alt right in general and identity politics on the right was like the answer to identity politics isn't more identity politics.
mhm.
And to elaborate on that, the only thing that you're doing is feeding the shifting because eventually the identity politics on the right is going to win over the general populace, and then you're just going to have that massive shift back over to the right, and then the identitarian right becomes authoritarian right, which it already is becoming anyway, different than the left. They just
What
have
I
minor differences, obviously, Nazism versus communism, but at the end of the day, which one is actually fucking different?
horseshoe theory. It's the whole. It's when you get to the extreme, they're both the same. And look at
Well,
Venezuela.
that's not even a theory at this point.
Yeah, true. But
The
now, the
only
thing I
difference
like too.
between Nazi is, go ahead.
I was just gonna say my favorite thing from Milo was when he's like someone called him a Nazi. He was like, "I'm ethnically Jewish, Catholic, gay man in a relation, married to a black man. If I'm a Nazi, I'm terrible at it." It's like, fair play, Milo. Fair
That's
play.
that is the ultimate trump card, no pun intended.
The only thing he calls Trump daddy scares me a little bit.
So, that was disturbing.
Yeah, little.
I voted for Trump, but at the end of the day, I don't like him anywhere near enough to call him or anyone for that matter, daddy.
I mean,
Uh,
if The Rock gets elected, I can't make any promises that I won't.
all right, fair enough. I won't hold you against it.
But so
I
you
have
mentioned
been
that
forewarned.
like the New York Times should get a new staff. So you also sent me the other article about BuzzFeed. Oh my God, it's about
Oh,
time.
fun. They
What was
have
that?
to lay off 100 employees. And
Beautiful.
quote, what is it? Shift. What was it? Shift their focus, I believe it said.
I think it's because they realize that they are so screwed if they keep going the way they've been going. They've just been falling apart. Like
They're
they're only like one type of video. There's only one type of video that I like from BuzzFeed, and it's like the trying food because it's just fun to watch people get disgusted by like, oh, we're gonna have like fried eyeballs. Okay, yeah, I'll watch that. But that's it. That's the only good content they've put out in like 30 years.
which is 30 years, huh?
I don't know how long they've existed. I haven't done my research. I'm guesstimating here.
Let's see. I don't even think the internet was around yet.
It was still like
I mean, it
DARPANET.
might have. I don't know.
What is ARPANET?
I
God,
don't think
ARPA didn't
BuzzFeed
even
had
exist.
dial-up. It
Yeah.
was
God,
oh,
can you imagine
dial-up.
waiting 20 minutes for a BuzzFeed page to load? That'd be the worst thing on earth.
I think I would much rather wait 20 minutes for a fat, smelly Hawaiian guy to drill a pineapple in my asshole.
I thought you were going to say for a fat Hawaiian guy to sing you a song because there's this one guy, Israel something or another, Hawaiian dude singing Over the Rainbow. Beautiful. Not Jewish, just named Israel.
Huh. Imagine that.
Ooh.
Who would have thunk it?
It's like I was almost named Palestine.
Because then warrior parents are like, nah, that's too obvious.
Well, it's just really funny because I have three siblings. They all have Judaic names, like biblical Judaic names. And then I'm Matthew. It, it hurts my soul.
Oh, I forgot your name was Matthew. Random fun fact: my older brother is named Matthew, and my father is named Matthew.
You just barely avoided it.
Oh no, my name is we won't talk about here because I'm doxing aloud, but
Yeah.
my name is
Aggy.
is Aggy. Yeah, yeah, Aggy. We'll go with that. My name is more on the Dutch side of the family.
Okay.
So the chat wants to know why do you have a star with a ninja star in the back? Why do you have a flag with a ninja star on it in the background?
Oh, that is the Palestinian flag.
I thought it was the
It's the
Japanese
Israeli
flag.
flag. It's Israeli. You know, the two signs like the two rivers, I think, and the star is a this little guy. That guy is the Star of David in Magen David, which David he had on his shield when
All
he
right,
fought that Goliath. And so this is a dreidel, and let's just get real Jewish here. So you
it
can
also
make
doubles
porn
as
with
my
this.
Beyblade.
God. So fun fact about Jewish kids, because I taught Hebrew school for 6 years, like well, I was an assistant teacher for 6 years. When Beyblade was around, Jewish kids during Hanukkah kept using their dreidels as Beyblades, and it was such a problem that we had to almost ban dreidels in our synagogue. Do you know what that's like? Having to almost ban something like it's Jewish and everything, but it's childhood gambling that became violent childhood gambling. It was such a weird discussion
No,
I had with them.
baby. How Beyblade affected my Jewish youth.
I could write a thesis on that. Oh
An
my
article
god!
by Goodnight Guy.
Can you imagine seeing
Yeah,
that at
go
like
ahead
the
and write a
top of
thesis on
HuffPo?
that.
I could probably get that on HuffPo. You think? Like if I say Jewish Beyblade at it?
Probably. I mean, you gotta say that you're a very light skinned Hispanic Jew though.
True. Yeah. Well,
I mean,
I'm an ethnic Jew.
with the darker hair and the beard, you can almost pull it off.
True. Also, Sami, I did not make it out of clay because when Jews make things out of clay, uh, that can accidentally make a golem, and golems kill people. Killing is bad, I think,
So
usually.
me that kills people.
Exactly, yeah. So we know that kills people. That's deadly, no. God.
Ugh, that's so terrible.
Yeah, but it's funny, so it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it wasn't offensive, it wouldn't be funny. So On the topic of offense, segueing into another discussion, your overall feelings on free speech, I'm sure, are going to fall more in line with what I would say. But I'll let you go first for because you're the guest and I'm the host. So politeness and all.
So frozen peaches, freeze peach. Uh, Let people say whatever they want to say unless it's going to harm someone or be dangerous to someone. If it's going to cause danger, alert the person. All that. Like, don't yell fire in like a stadium full of people. If you say you're going to kill someone, you're going to get arrested. But other than that, say whatever. And again, I'm Jewish. I've been called a Nazi. I've been called. I don't want you to get like flagged or anything, but I've been called many a Jewish slur, ones I didn't even know existed. I've been called all sorts of things. I'm like, okay, prick, whatever, because that's the whole point. And I get that free speech is freedom to speak, and then you can have problems afterwards. But it's the whole point is that now, in the modern legal sense, it is you can say whatever you want. If it causes problems, then you cannot. There is nothing preventing you from speaking. There are possibilities of problems afterwards, but you can say whatever you want. And there used to be laws like the sedition law. You couldn't speak out against the government, which think was put into play twice, and then redacted right after. Not redacted, but like repealed right after. All these things where free speech is such a big part of American society that if you get rid of it, I don't think people realize how many problems it would actually cause and how much it would change their days and lives. So I think it's like cornerstone of America, democracy, republic, all that.
Well, the First Amendment, obviously, as I'm sure you're well aware, covers freedom of speech. That
Mm-hmm.
no law shall be enforced, or no law, obviously paraphrasing, no law should be put in place that keeps a person from speaking whatever opinion that they happen to have. And I agree with you. You can't go out and say, I'm going to kill all X people because, well, that's a call to aggression.
Actually, you can say
But
all if you don't name.
but on the
Yeah.
yeah, well, I mean, but at the end of the day, is like you can say whatever racial slurs you want. You can, in my own personal opinion, you can say that all white people are racist for all I care. Black people are, gang or thugs or whatever this other happy horse. You can say all Jews are swindlers. You can say all those things, but couldn't prove the point.
I know.
But
Open.
at the end of the day, if you say those things, you also have to be prepared for the criticism.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel like going off of, not necessarily going off of free speech, but going a little bit of a tangent, that the concept of what is or isn't harassment has kind of gotten lost, especially as social media and internet
Mm-hmm.
are common, especially in the SJW sphere, and dare I say the right-wing SJW sphere, as it continues to seemingly grow, far less so than the SJWs, but is that if you say something and somebody criticizes you for it, and I'm not saying like, they take something that you say and it's like, oh, look at this dumb cunt, and instead they say like, oh, look at this person. Here's a few citations where that individual is wrong, and this individual is not only incorrect, but they are fundamentally incorrect because it's covered by, whatever basis of law or et cetera, et cetera. That's not harassment in my eyes. That is simply criticism. The two
Oh
are
yeah.
incredibly different.
Right, and like harassment also, again, I'm going to go all legally law speaking, but harassment has to be continuous, purposeful, and like there are a few other elements or factors. I think they're elements that you have to do all these things consistently, repeatedly. Requests must be made to stop. You must show displeasure. It must be harmful. All that criticism, just saying, like you're stupid and wrong, and I hate you. That's not harassment. That's just criticism. And yeah, like you said, they are extremely different, and people can't handle being wrong anymore. I mean, I know one of the best cases against this was Lacey Green, who is now, I think she's still going out with Chris Ray Gun, right? If they're still a thing.
Yes.
They're
Yes, they are.
adorable. I think he's shorter than her, but yeah. um, but she was able to take her criticism, and I think the biggest part of that was because her views branched from criticism of her extremely religious upbringing. But I think if people are raised being accepted,
So,
whatever. Yeah, go ahead.
how do you mean with in regards to her extremely religious upbringing? Do you mean that that's how she came to be how she is, or?
How she was, yeah. Like she really disliked and criticized her religious upbringing that led her to become what she was, and now she's found a middle ground.
Okay, so she did the pendulum effect more or less.
Hmm.
Like she went so far the other direction that she went more or less the extreme of the other side.
Which I
What I
think is really
understand. I was
good because I think everyone has that. Like I know with me, I'm pretty for like republics and everything, but I had a real hardcore anarchy phase. I don't like looking back on it. I even bought the V for Vendetta mask. It was bad. I bad, but I think everyone needs to have that sway, and I think that's why Lacey was able to come to that middle ground now because she had that. But a lot of people are raised with uh, this cushiness, and this is coming from someone who was bullied pretty roughly as a kid. But bullying does force you to conform to norm, and it does force you to realize you really can be a little screwy and wrong. And I'm not saying like going and attacking people and like all that stuff, but a little helpful, even like friendly bullying. Like I know my friends, we would kind of push each other around for when one was being a little too weird, a little too out there, because it helps people conform to the norm or even the norm of your subgroup, and it helps you to reevaluate your views. But now it becomes these echo chambers where you only stay friends with people that agree with you, and it becomes crazier and crazier until there's no middle ground anymore. You're insanely one direction.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. In that sense, it's for me. It's you always have people that fall into different cliques when they're in particularly middle school and high school because that's when they're on.
Mhm.
So you said that more or less they kind of forced you into a social norm more or less,
Mhm.
in that they kind of beliefs. But did you? So what exactly caused the anarchy phase then?
All my friends were doing it. So I had a lot of friends. This is gonna be weird, but a little trip down my memory lane. I didn't have a lot of friends in high school. Then I found a friend group, and there were a lot of like the punk kids, the drug dealer kids, all that. Where they were the sketchy ones in school. They were the ones who would have my back. I was a big kid, so they needed like to be kind of intimidating. Whatever. I'm the quiet idiot. I was a quiet kid who was smart and like would do homework for fun, or I'd carry on like 5 books with me, so I'd go through like one book a day. I was that kid, but I looked big. I was kind of well known in my school for several reasons that we're not going to go into. Yeah, so all my friends were like these really crazy punk and hate the government, hate everyone, everyone's terrible sort of kids. So because that was my friend group, even though I didn't really agree with a lot of those views at first, they were the ones who would talk to me, and I started to kind of hear these views more and more. Where, man, the government's evil, man. And instead of thinking, oh, this thing is a problem, I think, oh yeah, the government's evil, dude. We need to like abolish the government, man. So it led to the anarchy phase where I thought we really need anarchy and to destroy everything. But even with that, I still thought I'm a Lockean anarchist where we burn it down and rebuild it in like Locke's vision because I was a nerd who had read like a lot of Locke's writings and Plato's writings by then. So I thought
Are you
like burn it
referring
down, sort
to
of.
Are you referring to John Locke?
Yeah. So I read like I
All
forget
right, all
what
right.
his big thing is where he talked about like what is work, what is money, all that. Where it's like you own what you work upon, but you can transfer your work for pay. Pay must be equal to your work, uh, all that. And then there can be things held in common, like roads and such, which also got me because after the anarchy phase, I swung pretty far right. Where it's like, uh, taxation is theft. The government should be laissez-faire. Let people do whatever they want. I'm kind of at this happy medium between the two. But I think that everyone needs that pendulum
Well,
effect where they have to experience, even if it's two extremes of the same side, you need to be able to look at both sides. And kids today are just seeing their side, and it's their side louder. So they're lacking
so
that.
you're trying. So what I'm getting out of it is that people have to see a sense of duality. Is that
Hmm.
there is the one side and there's also the other side as well. However, usually in the middle is where you find not necessarily the truth, but the better option altogether.
Hmm.
Now, in regards to that, when it comes to John Locke, I actually follow a lot of his work relatively closely. He's one of my favorite philosophers. namely because of its heavy influence on the original formation of the United States.
Thomas Jefferson was a
But
dirty, copying little life, liberty,
to be
property.
fair,
You
was
just
he
can't change
wrong? But in regards to that, the what the hell was I going to say now? I lost my train of thought. In a lot of senses, the right side of taxation is theft mainly. Is actually the true statement would be taxation is extortion, because the government is extorting money for you with the promise that they will either pay you back in some way, shape, or form through either roads, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, which is part of the reason why I'm not truly really a libertarian, is because I do understand that, yes, while I think taxation, quote unquote, taxation is extortion, I understand that taxation does serve a purpose. I just think that it has gotten extremely out of hand.
But wait, can I make a quick argument then? This is something that was raised to me a few years ago. I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. So government takes taxes in exchange for roads, right? Let's just assume that's what it would be. Do you know what got the 21-year-old liquor law passed?
Yeah.
In the last few states that held out, the government threatened to withhold tax money. So the federal government was withholding state governmental taxes to push a federal law because they knew that they couldn't do it without that support. So it seems more like extortion, where you look at, like, sometimes it's used as an extortion against not just you, but the states itself. So the state that takes the money then has to answer to the federal government to get the money back from its own people.
Well, the state governments and the federal governments always seem to be at each other's throats for their own reasons.
Mhm.
After all, federal supersedes state.
Unless it's for more protections. So if it's,
yes,
yeah.
exactly.
So you could argue that alcohol is protection for kids.
Well, alcohol is an alternative form of abortion, but it's and dark humor joke of the hour, everybody.
God.
Dark humor. Dark humor is hilarious. If we didn't have dark humor, nothing would be funny.
True.
So, that's irony?
Yeah.
That's irony. I'm pretty sure that's irony.
Yeah, it's up there. Yeah, definitely.
So as we discussed earlier in the stream, you're going to not necessarily law, but what do you see a fundamental difference? Segueing here, do you see a fundamental difference between, let's say, your kind of is what is traditionally seen as a college campus?
Between, like, what do you mean? I think, like, you cut out for a second there.
Do you see a difference between how more or less how your campus is handled and how, like, the education is handled versus how the typical
Well, first of all,
education system?
there's a really small campus, but even if teachers are more liberal leaning here, the thing is, if they don't base their opinion on law, then we can look at it and say, oh, that's wrong, stupid, and bad. Because everyone who goes here, no offense to some people that go here that are pretty darn stupid, but everyone who goes here, no matter how dumb or smart they are here for law school. We're here to hear about laws. So someone starts, like, even a teacher or a student starts bashing Trump for, oh, well, it's a Muslim ban. Everyone's like, oh no, we read it. We all read it. It's a ban on these countries, regardless of religion. You can be whatever, but it's on countries. Oh, well, it's this, it's that. It's like, well, no, we read it. And there's a thing where it's like how we were going over something in class, and it was over, I forget exactly what it was, but it was some big contract thing. Like, well, no, that's not what it was historically, because we all just read that contract. So people can try to make those same arguments that you see on undergrad campuses, but they're shut down a lot more quickly because we've studied it. We know the rules behind it, and you really have to be able to back your argument. Otherwise, you'll just be looked at like, well, you're stupid, wrong, and you're talking to a bunch of people that know that you're stupid and wrong, or we know that you didn't think that's true, or we know you didn't do your research, because it's easy to just Google something and say, oh, it's this, it's that. we're given free usage of two different law databases, Westlaw and LexisNexis. So we can just go and look up your argument and prove why it's wrong. We can use cases to tell you why it's wrong. So we do have, I mean, it's still majority, very left-leaning liberal, but it's less of the stupid yelling, screaming, spouting, nonsense stuff, because now you're going to have to think this through. If you don't, you're going to sound so much dumber because we all did think it through.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome and hilarious simultaneously. My head with the teachers like, oh, you know, this, that, and the other thing, and the tax bill includes this, and you're like, actually, no, it doesn't. Well, it's in my experience, a lot of it comes down to generalizations about Trump, which actually talking about that particular individual.
Well, I mean, I know. I mean, even one of my teachers the other day said something about Roy Moore, and she was listening. Well, you know, Cosby, Louis C.K., Weinstein, Roy Moore. I'm like, three of those people have come out and admitted that they've done things and are getting in trouble and are being destroyed. One of them is still arguing that it's all fake. No evidence has come out, and the cases haven't gone to court and have passed the statute of limitations. It seems like you didn't think through your comment. And I'd say that because I'm trying to pass the class, but I'm hearing this like, even if all the allegations against Roy Moore are true, nothing has gone into court and he has fought them. Innocent until proven guilty. You're in law school, due process is a thing. It's like one of those things where it's like, you're going to turn to some of my friends and they're like, what's she talking about? It hasn't gone to court yet.
Yeah, it's the concept of innocent until proven guilty has kind of been, you know, construed in regards to sexual assault claims, rape claims, et cetera, of the notion of listen and believe. And when people say like, I don't believe in the concept of listen and believe, most people would say, oh, you're a rape apologist. Well, the individual hasn't been convicted of the crime yet. I'm not saying that they didn't do it. I'm just saying that I maintain a certain level of skepticism to whether or not they did, and I'm not going to make a harsh decision one way or the other until the evidence is proven.
And I mean, making
that's
this
not being a rape apologist. Exactly. That's not being a rape apologist. That's just being a rational human being.
And it's like there are two huge cases in the last 30 or so years, I'd say, where the assumption was made that the person is guilty before the verdict came out. And those two cases ended up falling apart because it was assumed that they were like definitely absolute. And that's Casey Anthony and O.J. Simpson. Because the court, like the people tried so hard to say, we already know, the case fell apart. So when you go in saying, well, we already know, you're just expecting a Bradley effect where you're just going to fall apart on your face.
Well, you can't go into the courtroom and be like, well, we know. Evidence. Oh, we don't need any evidence. We just know. How? Where's your crystal ball? Explain this to me.
It's just like...
But Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, yeah, it's just insane.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misheard you. It's funny to me because I feel like a lot of people in general tend to have one notion of the right, left leaning either way. But if something comes out to be, you know, against a political party that they disagree with, they will hop right on board with just that person being wrong without any shadow of a doubt whatsoever. And that's also part of the reason why I could say I loathe bipartisanship. So if you want to say a few words on that, I'd be interested to hear them. Bipartisanship in general.
Talk about is the Overton window, which I think you know what that is, right?
Not off the top of my head, no. I think I read up on it once, but it was a while ago.
Imagine a box, okay? And in the middle of the box is the true center of the political spectrum. Of all the different things, it's the true center. And in this box, on this side is, I think it's like can see this way, but it's mirrored on YouTube. Let's just say on this side is the right, which is the Republicans, and over on this side is the Democrats. And if you take a step out this way, here are the conservatives, here are the liberals, here are the authoritarians. Well, they're both authoritarian. Here are the fascists, here are the communists, and then comes around into authoritarian on both sides. The Overton window, the box itself, is how we view things. So it shifts to the right, then the centrists seem like Democrats, the Democrats seem like liberals, the liberals seem like communists, and the communists just seem insane. And the more it shifts to the right, the more the right-leaning groups seem normalized. So if the conservative is the center, then the Republicans would seem Democrat, and the super far right would seem just a little more right. If it's to the left, then it's like the liberals would be seen as the center, the Democrats would be seen as Republicans, et cetera, et cetera. Like how JFK ran as a Democrat, but today he would be an ardent conservative. Close the borders, bring our troops home, this, that, the other thing. Get rid of all these different social programs. So it's how we view politics. And the problem in America right now is with our bipartisanship, the Overton window has cracked, and we're seeing them both be dragged the other way. And the more one side pulls, the more the other side pulls. And we've seen this since I think around 2012 or whenever Occupy Wall Street started, where we had Occupy begin as a centrist movement against the bankers that caused the 2008 meltdown. And then none of them went to jail, and I can talk about that for days. But it started as a joint movement, but then it started moving in both sides. And then it led to like the Tea Party, and then it led to modern Antifa, which led to like Spencer's whole movement getting bigger. That like white nationalism, whatever it is, whatever he calls himself now, he changes every other week. I mean, he's also a socialist though, but yeah. So we see these parties pulling the other ones further and further apart. And with bipartisanship, the problem is that you can't really stop it because there's only two. It's like magnets that get pulled together and burst apart the other ways. If we had more parties, they'd be able to hold them in line. Like I think I talked about, I have the Israeli flag and all that, but I think they have around 34 political parties that are in their parliament, the Knesset, and they form coalitions. And I think England also does coalitions. A lot of countries do it, where the coalitions force parties to work together. And it forces them to stay within their bounds. Otherwise, they don't have any power. And I think America could benefit from that sort of thing because bipartisanship is destroying us. And I mean, even I think George Washington said, like, avoid political parties, especially do not become bipartisan. You're going to have parties have many. And we have a lot, but none that actually hold power. I mean, the Green Party, the Libertarian Party, the Nazi Party, the Communist Party, the United States, all those, they're not getting any real power soon. I think there are like 3 Senate seats for the Green Party and 4 for Libertarianism, but then they tend to sway towards left.
The George Washington actually was also very very isolationist.
Yeah. Well, I'm very isolationist, but no one listens to that.
I can agree with that entirely. I'm also anti-intervention too. So also views that I actually kind of share with, well, the isolation doesn't fall on the libertarian side of it, but the anti-intervention does. But as for the Libertarian Party is actually the 3rd largest party in the United States. I actually just got done talking to Boober about this not that long ago. But in order for a party to even have like a stage, not even like a stage dedicated to them, just be on stage with the other political parties, like Republican and Democrat, when they're doing the primaries and everything, in order for a party to even get up on that stage, they have to have a 15% approval rating over a series of national surveys.
That's insane.
Now, the issue with that is that most national surveys, that's not even dictated by constitutional law. That's the CPD. I'm not exactly 100% sure. Not 100% sure that I remember what the acronym stands for right now. But essentially, it's not constitutional law. It's just something that was thought up
to try and snuff out
a while ago.
More.
Probably. But essentially what happens is since they can't get the 15% and maintain it, because you can't just get 15% in one national survey and then get a stage. You have to have national surveys that last for an extended period of time during the election season. 15% approval rating in order to even get up on stage with the two larger parties. And I believe that this creates the same issue that we have where we had the 2016 election, for example, which the only reason, to be quite frank, the only reason why I voted for Trump was because of the wall. That was the only issue I could even remotely agree with the guy on, was immigration. I became a one-issue voter because I was forced to be one, when in actuality I'm actually I have a multitude of levels of reason why I would vote for somebody. Actually, originally I wanted to vote for Austin Peterson for the Libertarian Party, but he got kicked out because of...
Well, wait, how do you feel about Rand? Good old Rand Paul, who's now been attacked by his neighbor. How do you feel about that guy?
I don't know too much about him. I've been inclined to vote for him, but since I'm not well versed in what he believes his political stances, I never could.
And I know with me, like, I started off just hoping, pleading that Trump would not win the primaries because I didn't like him that much. I thought if he got there, and I've talked to friends about this, if Bernie versus Trump was the primary, Bernie would have trounced him. Like I said, I lived in Philly at the time, and I saw the fervor for Bernie. And Bernie was insanely high in Philly. He would have, like, Pennsylvania would have stayed blue. And I think I mentioned this before, where in my view, one of the only reasons that Pennsylvania went red was because so many people in Philly were so angry that Bernie lost, because the DNC, like the Democratic Convention, was in Philly. And people got hurt from that. Not physically, but really hurt. Philly was a Bernie city. And people went out in droves for Bernie. And then people were blocked from voting, and the machines didn't work, and their signs were taken away, and they were forced to hold Hillary signs. And Hillary lost Philly by having the DNC there.
Well, authoritarianism more or less lost.
Yeah. I mean, I know I didn't really vote for Trump as much as I voted against Hillary. And I know if I voted third party, that's a waste of a vote. This election, at least. Hopefully that changes over time, but I knew this election was a very important one.
Well, if it's any inclination, the Libertarian Party had 300% increase in voters this year. So they're up to 3.97%, around that realm right there, which is laughable. But hey,
it's something.
An increase is an increase. You take what you can get.
It's bigger than the communists, which is good.
What's that?
It's bigger than the Communist Party, which is really what matters. We got to keep the Communist Party at like 0.0001% or smaller.
Difficult to do that, seeing the climate in college campuses, not personally your own necessarily, but universities in general.
Temple University, I know we as I was leaving, I started to see the Antifa stickers all over campus, and it was just bad. It was getting worse and worse. I forget whether I mentioned this in a past video, but on the day of the election, or the day after the election, I had classes on Wednesday, and instead of actually learning that day in my thesis class, the class that I needed to graduate, we decided we'll skip learning today and just write about our feelings and talk about the election. I was the only white guy in class. There was a black guy, a Latino guy, a Slavic guy, and I say white because I'm like very Caucasian and I'm from America. I think he was second generation. A black girl and a white girl, so I was the only really like truly privileged one, and I was the one who had voted for the guy that won. And we're talking about our feelings. And then on campus, there are people being chased and attacked for wearing the Trump hats, or for like talking out against Hillary, because there were all these like parades and things on campus against Trump the next day. And it's just insane to watch as it's just gotten worse. It's a mess.
So what does that say about the group of people that followed Hillary that lost?
They're angry and they feel like they deserve to be righted somehow. Like, they were probably raised where they get what they want when they're told that they deserve it, that they weren't really bullied or anything, that they were allowed to live with their views, whatever those views might have been. And they were allowed to be wrong, and then whenever anything happened, they were just given stuff for it. So I feel like they expected if they were loud enough, then things would change, or they think that America is a direct democracy, or that all the votes for her, like she won the popular vote, she won the popular vote. I think it ended up being like at least 2 or 3 million votes were fake or fraudulent, whatever. And that, I mean, the
which is
popular vote doesn't matter.
allegedly.
Like we have the whole center of the United States. Like I think it's like more people live in Los Angeles than like half the breadbasket, which means that the popular vote doesn't matter because LA should not dictate more than like Wyoming, Colorado, and 3 other states because they don't
Well, that's
understand.
that's the reason why we have that's the reason why we don't have electoral colleges, because you have like New York City, which is the largest city in the United States by a large margin. I believe it has somewhere in the realm of 8 million people, maybe more at this point, but it has in the realm of 8 million people. And then you have Los Angeles, which have 3 million people in it.
Mm-hmm.
That's 11 million people right there with the popular vote. It doesn't seem very large in the overall scale and means of things, but when you tend to think about it, is like you have, if you look at the map of the last election, you will notice that a lot of the heavily urban areas were
Mm-hmm.
Democrat, while a lot of the heavily rural areas. So there's a disconnect there, in that the people in the city want different things than people that live outside of the city.
I mean, with me,
It's
sorry, go ahead.
it's I don't really have much of a long sentence, but to me, I view it as, this might just come from where I live, but a lot of the people that live in the city tend to have a snobbery to people that
Mm-hmm.
live and look down their nose at you. It's like, oh, you're uncultured. You don't live in an area where an apartment costs you $2,000 a year, and it's as large as you can shit in your toilet and cook at the same time. And it's
Yeah.
just like, no, we just choose a different style of living
Mm-hmm.
because you're closed minded.
I mean, I know with me, my hometown is about an hour or so outside of Philly, and a lot of farms in that area. Like I think like 50 small farms that do various different sales of produce and things. Now going to Philly and people say, "Oh, well, there aren't any farmers left in the country anyway. It's all export." I'm like, I can take a train, walk 10 minutes, and find 5 produce stands, 2 farm stores, 3 farms, and like all these different things. There's like I know in my town there's like a strawberry festival, and one nearby there's like a peach festival every year. All these different festivals for fruits and things. And people think, "Oh, well, it doesn't matter anyway." I'm like, no, that's my entire hometown's livelihood. Like there are a couple of
Oh,
lawyers,
it
a couple
doesn't.
of doctors, and then farms for miles and miles and miles.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. Oh, you
Mhm.
mean producing food, growing your own food, and 9 times out of 10 producing meat in some cases when it comes to farms.
Mhm.
Yeah, that doesn't matter at all. No, no, producing food for the country, we just could brush that one aside.
Well, it's like the same people are saying, like, "Oh, I only get organic and locally grown." Like, where do you think locally grown is grown? Locally. Well, why do you want to defraud these
It
people?
it has it written in the title.
And they still just don't care. And it amazes me how these people in the city will never bother to go to the suburbs, or they totally discount the suburbs. And it's just like, oh, well, that's that. I'm like, the suburbs are not just Levitt towns. There are other things out there. There are people who their livelihoods depend on you not doing this or you doing this, and they don't care because they're so disconnected. They think, well, that's out there. That won't affect me. Or what I do won't affect them. What they do won't affect me. It's like, no, that's the whole point. We're one concise country. What we do affects each other.
Well, exactly. If you have farmers that can't produce food because of government overregulation and taxing them to literal oblivion, then your country starves. If you have a manufacturer that can't manufacture and therefore produce a good that would therefore pay his workers, then you have people that are out of work, which is, you know, basic economics to me.
Hmm.
But nowadays it's I don't know, flat earth science to these people.
Pretty much.
That doesn't make sense. That's illogical. No, no. Flat earth is illogical. This is proven economics.
Yeah, it's like basic economics. This is the basic way of how things work. And just they don't want to hear it because it's this cognitive dissonance that just, no, that's not what I think. So it can't be true. Like, it doesn't matter what you think. It's numbers. It's really hard to make a number lie.
I don't know. Just this other day, I was thinking that 4 actually meant 5.
Oh, it just may be. You never know.
I'm waiting. I am waiting for the day that the news article, "Math is a social construct," comes out from Vox or whatever fucking
It'll be Vox or
ultra left
HuffPo or
website.
Salon. It'll probably be Salon.
I'm gonna start like a fucking bracket on that. Seriously, who wants HuffPo? Get $20 on HuffPo. All right, who wants Vox? Get $20 on Vox right over there. Whoever comes out wins the. Whoever comes out first wins the pot.
So I kind of hate myself for this. I just looked it up, and there are articles for "Is math a social construct?" It exists
Why did you do that?
because you mentioned it, and I had to
All
look it
right,
up.
enlighten me.
I'm not clicking on any of these things. It's just saying like
Some titles.
it's about money, and it's saying like if money isn't real, can numbers be true? If they're all subjective, if money is subjective, are numbers subjective? Oh my God, why?
Oh, I had a life story. I had an ex who was into the whole spiritual thing, and she started debating me about money. She goes, "It has no literal value." I was like, "Hold up, wait a minute. The vehicle you're driving, does it hold value to you?" Well, her response was, of course, yes, because she doesn't give up her car. And I go, and how much money do you think that vehicle is worth? And she goes, "Oh, I don't know, about $8,000." I was like, there is your monetary value.
Mhm.
It has direct value. $8,000 is equal to the value of a tangible object basis. That is how money works.
I mean, like I know
And to
that.
this, and
Sorry, good.
well, it wasn't even disappointing her. She completely avoided the argument. She was like, "Oh, that's not true." I'm like, I proved to you how you were wrong.
Hmm.
I gave up, obviously.
But I mean, I know there's this one guy who I used to listen to. I think he was like part of, or he might still be part of Rooster Teeth. Yeah, this dude who's on Somo Guys. Who he said he doesn't worry about exchange rates wherever he goes. He looks at the price of this sandwich that's sold like internationally, like a bread and cheese sandwich, whatever. Says he looks at the price of that. He knows the price of that in his currency. So whatever price is there, he's like, all right, this is worth that many sandwiches. It's like, yes, it's the basics of money is can be exchanged for goods and services. Its worth is held by what it can do. It's like that's what money is. That's why money exists. And like that's always been the base of it is how much is it worth for actions. Like back when gold and silver were used, we didn't know the technological uses for gold or the fact that silver can be like this, that, the other thing. We just knew, all right, shiny, and we can exchange this for that. You can exchange shiny for thing. And that's what it became. And it's just people seem to not grasp that. And it blows me away.
I don't even like, I mean, not people in general, but some people that are like, they try to a higher, quote unquote, higher spiritual sense. Like, oh, well, I don't need money for these reasons. It's like, all right, well, in that regard, you can go live in a government free zone, which they kind of do exist. I mean, if you live in the mountains, the government's probably not going to bother you because you're making all of your own things. But here's the thing: you have to work to produce your own firewood. You have to build your home by yourself with your own materials. Everything that is within that house is made by you. Therefore, the fundamental value isn't necessarily money, it's the objects that you create. Those objects being the basic needs for survival: heat, a roof above your head, shelter, and in the sense of comfort, you have a chair to sit in.
Mm-hmm.
So at the end of the day, whether or not those 4 things are contributed to how much you work, let's say you work and get paid in firewood, essentially you cut down a tree and chop it into firewood. Or you go to work for a logging company, you cut shit into firewood, and if somebody pays you, what exactly is the difference?
I mean, like I know a lot of these people have never tried to live like that. Like with me and a group of people, it was like a summer camp thing, but we backpacked across an island for 3 weeks, and it was rough. Well, for 2 of the weeks it was like just regular camping, but then for one full week we backpacked. Like everything we had was held on our backs. We had to go and forage for stuff, and it was rough. And for a few of those days, we worked on a farm, and our pay for working on that farm and doing farm work was, all right, here's food to eat. It's like, okay, thank you. We have something to eat now. We live in tents, we sleep on the ground, and we get paid in food so we don't die. And we had to like purify our own water. We had to do all this stuff, and it was rough. And that was on a fancy, nice island where we were still in the jungles, but oh, whatever. Actually living on your own, I feel like people don't realize it is so hard to forge and do things. Society is such a nice thing to have.
Isn't Western culture great?
Oh yeah, which I mean, I love that some countries are totally destroying their own culture, but hey, enjoy.
Well, that's a topic we could delve into if you so please.
Oh no, I want to avoid that topic because then I get yelled at because I don't know if you listened to my. I did a live stream with this dude Renegade, who he came at me as he should have about Israel and how a lot of people say like, oh, Israel shouldn't have borders, but we should open our borders. But like, Israel should. Like, Israel should have borders, not people in, but we shouldn't. It's like, yeah, no, I got no argument. That whole thing, that's a can of worms that just gets me yelled at every time.
Fair enough. I don't want to stick my hand in that can of worms. I can agree with that entirely. I suppose I wouldn't want to touch it either. I'm far less versed in it than you are yourself, I'm sure.
It's a slimy can.
But in regards to preserving culture, we'll simply think of Western culture as a whole, as you yourself subscribe to, I'm sure. Your Jewish heritage, you still consider yourself a Western cultured individual, correct?
Yeah. I'm American. I'm an American who's Jewish. I'm not a Jew who happens to be American.
All right, all right. So when you hear the term nationalism, what is the first thing you think?
Civic versus ethnic. For civic, it's like I like America. People who come here should become Americanized, and America is the best country on earth because anyone can become American.
However, I'm sure you obviously probably think this yourself too, but and you actually probably said it in what you just said. You just talked so fast. I kind of tried to filter out the information the best I could, but it's it's one of the things to me is that funny is like, well, people say, oh, you're a nationalist, so that must mean that you hate immigrants. It's like, I have no issue with immigrants whatsoever. It's just I want them to come here and respect
Mhm.
our culture. Now, keep in mind, if you want to stay at home and have your own little, or your own neighborhoods and have your own little, you know, Mexican culture, your own Chinese, I don't care.
Mhm.
As long as at the end of the day you respect American culture, law, and et cetera, et cetera. I don't care. I can give a shit less.
Like I know with me and
It's
my family, my dad's side got here. My great grandfather came over from Russia and barely avoided the pogroms, which is when the Russians decided, we actually do hate Jews. Yeah, we forgot. And my mom's side got here. I think part of it, part of my mom's side was in the Warsaw Ghetto at one point, and um, the other side got here right before the Holocaust started. It's like my family just avoided a lot of bad stuff, but when they got here, it's like my mom's side. I think her great uncle made like a candy factory where they made the first whistle pop, which like a lollipop that's shaped like a whistle. So when you blow into it, you can eat it. Never patented it, but did that, and they made a candy for America. On my dad's side, they made a textile factory. So they came here and really became like Americanized. They were like, oh yeah, we have our old roots, but we are American now. And that's really pushed with me. Like my dad, very pro-America. I don't really know too much about his political beliefs. Doesn't come up that often, but I know he's like very pro-America because we're Russian Jews. We're not very much liked anywhere except here.
well, the whole premise of America was, inevitably a melting pot. But
Mhm.
the main thing was when you came here, you are an American. You're allowed to have your culture, but you are American. The country comes first.
Mhm.
It's like you're allowed to have your culture, but America, the country is where the country that you live in. The betterment of the country is the point.
I was thinking one of
Now,
the biggest problems is we don't
that
share cultures anymore.
yeah, which the whole cultural appropriation thing to me is just retarded. It was like, you can't
It's
appropriate my
ruining
culture. Isn't
things.
isn't is this not what America was built upon? Oh,
Hmm.
you come here and you're a Russian Jew, and you bring your own food, your own delicacies, your own religion, your own way of thinking, and it eventually gets melted into a pot that is American, and everybody that is American is allowed to experience those things and divulge in those things as they see fit.
I
To
mean,
me,
like,
is what America means.
I mean, bourbon wouldn't exist without uh, the Irish coming over and then like being refined by the American distillers after what's it called? Like all those different things. Like we have so many things that wouldn't exist. Like I know uh, rock, heavy metal, hip hop would not exist without the American slaves, which created the like their own form of music, which eventually became blues, which became R&B, which became rock and hip hop, which became like so many things. America is such a great mixing of all these different things. It's like if we don't allow the mixing, we lose out on so much. A Korean pulled pork burrito wouldn't exist without that mixing. And I think that's like we need that mixing.
Exactly. Like when it comes to rock, I'm an avid lover of rock, metal, and personally, I think actually metal evolved from rock, but had a lot less hip hop elements to it, and
Right.
more kind of picked up a little bit of the European punk rock phase that was going on. But
Hmm.
that in and of itself, we'll just say rock and metal for the sake of argument. For that divulgence or the what's what I'm looking for, the combination of all of those cultures, we wouldn't be where we are now. Instead, we had now in this day and age, instead of having people like, oh yeah, you can come over, you can enjoy this culture and my culture, and we can all have a great time and experiment with our cultures, music, art, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We have a bunch of people that are policing other people's language and how they dress based upon arbitrary measures that make no fucking difference to the rest of the world because the majority of the world doesn't fucking care.
Hmm.
Like, oh, you can't wear a headdress during Halloween because it's offensive. Offensive to who? Who really gives a fuck? Please point them out because I don't want anything to do with that person to begin with.
Hmm.
I'm a really sensitive douchebag around me anyway.
I mean, I know with me, like especially with like the Halloween stuff. For 1 year, I dressed up as a priest, and one of my friends dressed up as a rabbi. It was hilarious, and it was so stupid, but it was funny, and we were able to laugh at that. And I mean, growing up, uh, like we'd make jokes with our like other friends, like, "Listen, we can't tell the people that Santa isn't real." And we were like 19 and whispering this stuff, like, "Hey, listen, we can't tell Joe that Santa isn't real. He doesn't know." And of course, like the whole like, if we can't make jokes, then we lose so much, and we lose like, and it starts with jokes. When you can't make jokes anymore, you have to watch everything. When you have to watch everything, you can't introduce things. When you can't introduce things, there can't be any mixing.
Well, have you noticed that comedians as a whole have almost become like dead?
Mhm.
Like, I mean, sure, you got your like Amy Schumers and your Peter Coffins and et cetera, et cetera. These people, they're not comedians. They're not funny, and they're
Well,
like, and it always boils down to like, oh, you can't make offensive jokes like that. Well, why not? The point is a joke.
it's like, I mean, when I first heard Amy Schumer, she made a joke that went way too far. And have you ever heard of Anthony Jeselnik?
Who's that?
Anthony Jeselnik, he's a comedian. He does like exclusively dark humor, and he does it really well. It's really dark, like really like Jesus Christ, man. And it was I forget whose roast it was, but Steve-O was there, and it was right after one of the guys from Jackass had died, and Amy Schumer made a joke about like, "Oh, Steve-O, we're surprised you're here. We thought it'd be you who died first." And it's like it's still way too soon. And even Anthony Jeselnik, who was like the guy who's like, "I don't care how soon it is, I'll make a joke." Like he apparently got in trouble for making a joke about like Sandy Hook or I forget what it was, or 9/11, something like that. He made a joke like the day after, and he almost got fired for it. and then he was told to delete it off of Twitter or something, and he didn't, so he actually got fired for a joke. And he stands by it. But Amy Schumer made a joke to someone's face about their friend dying and how she expected him to die first, and she thought that'd be funny. And now she just does all this like, oh, gross, I'm a woman, I'm gross. Like she does what she thinks is edgy now because she started off way too edgy, and now she realizes, oh, there's a niche here that I can follow. And that's what it seems like you're saying. Like a lot of these people are doing. There's still some comedians that are able to ride that kind of wave with their own stuff. Like I know John Mulaney has been able to ride that wave of here's what I can say funny, moderately offensive. Like he even says at one point, like, yes, I'm getting playfully anti-Semitic here. It's fine. My wife's Jewish. Like he's able to ride that wave, but some of them are just so dead. And it's not funny. It's just the same joke from 12 different people.
Yeah, you get to a point where it's like, yeah, I've heard this before. You're not telling a joke that's new. Also, you're very terrible at it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's delivery as well, which for me one of my favorite jokes to tell is Irish jokes, because an Irishman walked out of a bar. Yes, it can happen. Although when I tell jokes, people are people are like tell me, oh, you're racist. So it was like, actually no, I hate everyone equally.
Oh yeah,
I
across the
don't hate
board.
any race individually more or less than the other. And then they're kind of like that. They just get this look of bewilderment on their face, like, SJW logic, 404 not found, broken.
Oh, with me, I just go something like, no, I don't hate anyone except for Jews. I hate those dirty, rotten, money grubbing. And I made that joke to one of my friends once, and someone overheard, and she was about to start lecturing me. I'm like, wait, wait, wait. And I pulled out my mezuzah, which like a thing that has like a Jewish star and has Jewish prayers. I'm like, but I'm Jewish. I'm allowed to say that. And she's like,
And
oh, well,
she's like,
okay.
oh.
And I'm like, yeah, no need to throw a fit, no need to Jew out. She's like, really? I'm like, yes, I have to. Just to kind of reset the mood.
It's because you stand up and you're about ready to lecture somebody on a topic you probably don't know too well yourself, because you're probably
Mm-hmm.
not Jewish.
No, she wasn't.
So you're getting
She wore
offended,
Crocs every day.
and and you're getting offended on behalf of somebody else. That, I think, is a little bit offensive to some people,
Mm-hmm. Well,
because
so,
you're sitting over there, you're minding your own business, and meanwhile this dumb cunt, male or female, I don't want to be sexist here after all. This dumb cunt's getting all fucking offended by somebody saying something. Meanwhile, you're over here just like, bitch, motherfucker, I wasn't even fucking bothered by it.
mm-hmm.
You're just getting all upset because you want a virtue signal about how moral you are. Supposedly, I'm sure you take 12 dicks on Sunday anyway.
I mean, I know like one of my friends who I like to think I'm good friends with her, or she actually hates me. I can't tell which yet. But she sent me a joke as like on Snapchat, and because I've been like making fun of her for something, I forget what it was, but I've been ruthless about it for like two or three straight days. And she sent me a snap of an oven saying, "If you ever visit, I have a spare room for you." And that was the funniest thing. I screenshotted it. I showed it to my friends. We were like having trouble breathing. It was so funny because it was just like, "Oh my god, that's terrible." But the fact that when you have those relationships, you're allowed to make those jokes then, and forming that and being able to be terrible to each other is so integral to socializing. You have to be good enough friends to be a bad person to your friends.
You gotta let her go into you and say, damn, you're roasting me worse than my grandpa in 1942.
Jesus. Well,
No,
G
that
peso
wasn't
in El
Jesus. That was
Banco.
G Money.
Yeah. Oh, he's G
Although
Money again, not G peso.
he's G Money. He's back to G Money. Although, to be fair, he looks an awful lot like Jesus. Look at that profile pic.
True.
Jesus, the Romans did nothing wrong. He sold the nails to the Jews. It was just business.
God.
Oh, that's horrible.
Yeah,
I'm
but
going to hell
still
for that
fun.
one.
Well, good news is Jew hell can last like 5 minutes. See, I don't get the whole Catholic eternal damnation thing. It's too much. Ours can last like the maximum time you can be in Jew hell is like a year. 1 year.
The Jews were even lawyers back then.
All right.
You come
I'm
up to
probably
the
gonna have to
court,
leave after
the
this,
Jewish
but
lawyer's like, no.
there's actually in Judaism, when you die, it is a court case. It actually is. The whole term satan comes from the opposition or opponent, which is the prosecution against you when you go before a trial of angels when you die. You are the defense, and your own conscience is the prosecution, and you're held on trial for every bad thing you've ever done. And if you lie, it's against you because your conscience will be able to say, no, here's the real reason why. It's like, oh, I picked up that woman in the rain because I felt badly for her and wanted to help. It's like, objection. You thought you could get a little out of that. Like, oh man, my conscience is selling me out. That's what happens when you die in Judaism. You have to argue in front of a jury, but your conscience will call out anytime you're wrong. You have to out lawyer your own mind. It's horrifying.
Pontius Pilate did nothing wrong.
God. Oh, Ponty.
Oh, Ponty. All right. Let's see how long we've been running now. An hour and 45, hour and 46 minutes.
Something like that.
Do you want to continue it? It's fine by me, but I do have to use the bathroom.
And I gotta go study, but yeah, laws. So, I guess sign off now.
All right, we'll call it a day then. I'll give you a few minutes to plug your channel, and we'll call it good.
All right, well, go check out Goodnight Guy or www.youtube.com/c/goodnightguy. Like I said, I do crime, criminology, law stuff. So if you like that, come watch. It's not terrible all the time. That's
Not
McCall.
all the time.
Yeah, most of the time, not all the time.
All right, well, go check out GG if he or Goodnight Guy. I call him GG for short because, quite frankly, I'm a fucking faggot. That's besides the point. So, consider this stream more or less done. The rest of you cunts have a wonderful night. Peace out.
Yeet.
Don't be so Jewish. All right, you fucking cunts. See you later.